Welcome to the Workers' Reading Room. Today I'm continuing with American Trade Unionism by William Z. Foster. This is Chapter 6, The Post-War Attack on Labor. In the historic situation of the World War period, all the class collaboration tendencies hitherto active or latent in the trade union movement came to a climax. The bureaucracy identified the interests of the workers completely with those of the employers. They degraded the trade unions into mere instruments of the capitalists. Whatever policy the capitalists outlined in the imperialist war, the trade union leaders accepted as their own. When the policy of the government was neutrality, none were more blatant neutralists than the bureaucrats. And when the capitalist class prepared to enter actively the imperialist war, the trade union leaders began to cry out their support. Even before the United States actually began war on Germany, the AFL bureaucrats gave assurance that the employers could depend upon the support of the unions. At a special conference, attended by the heads of all the important unions, held almost 1 month before the United States entered the war, a long patriotic declaration was adopted, containing the following: "But despite all our endeavors and hopes, should our country be drawn into the maelstrom of the European conflict, we, with these ideals of liberty and justice herein declared as the indispensable basis for national policies, offer our services to our country in every field of activity to defend, safeguard, and preserve the Republic of the United States of America against its enemies, whoever so they may be, and we call upon our fellow workers and fellow citizens in the holy name of labor, justice, freedom, and humanity to devotedly and patriotically give like service." A few months after the war began, the Gomperzites, in order to check the left-wing agitation against the war, organized the so-called American Alliance for Labor and Democracy. Its declaration of principles begins, "The American Alliance for Labor and Democracy, in its first national conference, declares its unswerving loyalty to the cause of democracy, now assailed by the forces of autocracy and militarism. As labor unionists, social reformers, and socialists, we pledge our loyal support to the United States government and its allies in the present world conflict. We declare that the one overshadowing issue is the preservation of democracy. Either democracy will endure and men will be free, or autocracy will triumph and the race will be enslaved. On this prime issue, we take our stand." The resistance of the left wing was soon overcome. The overwhelming masses of trade unionists were duped into following the lead of the AFL officials. The latter then, cheek by jowl with the employers, plunged into every phase of war activity. They became members of all the committees, from the National War Labor Board down, created to further the war. They sent delegations to Great Britain and France to help force the reluctant masses into the war. Gompers blossomed forth as a great statesman, the right-hand man of Wilson. On all sides, the press and other capitalist institutions poured out flattery for the pliant labor leaders, who swallowed it greedily. The employers, with a shrewd eye to eventual bitter struggles with the workers, demanded the establishment of class peace during the war period. This, the lackey-like bureaucrats readily agreed to. Early in 1918, they worked out an agreement which was not only practically of a no-strike character, but which also laid out other direct obstructions in the way of organizing the workers. One clause of this agreement runs, "In establishments where union and non-union men and women now work together, and the employer meets only with employees or representatives engaged in such establishments, the continuation of such conditions shall not be deemed a grievance." This was a guarantee of the status quo regarding the open shop, and it was so understood by the various labor commissions. It was a direct bar to the unionization of the industries. The leaders of the workers also accepted it in that spirit. They did virtually nothing to organize the masses to defend their interests. They were interested only in winning the war. With the tremendous demand for labor, it would have been quite possible with but little effort to sweep several million workers into the unions. Because this was not done, the unions later had a bitter price to pay. Notwithstanding sabotage and betrayal by the Gompers leaders in every angle of the war situation, the pressure from the masses for organization and better conditions was so great, however, that the unions began to grow and function. Thousands of workers were organized in the railroad, steel, packing, lumber, metal, textile, and many other industries. The membership of the AFL advanced from 2,371,434 in 1917 to 4,078,740 in 1920. The 8-hour day was established in many industries, working conditions were improved, and wages, especially of the unskilled, were sharply advanced. The end of the war found the trade union bureaucracy living in a fool's paradise. Everything seemed rosy to them. The unions were strong, established in many industries hitherto completely closed to them, and growing rapidly in spite of official sabotage. The leaders, flattered by the employers and tied up with them in a maze of governmental class collaboration schemes, believed that their ideal class peace was at hand. But these illusions were soon to be shattered. Speedily after the war, the trade unions were to find themselves in death grips with a capitalist enemy more militant than ever, with American imperialism nurtured and strengthened almost beyond recognition by the World War. With its vast extent of territory stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific, containing the greatest body of natural resources of coal, iron, oil, lumber, etc. in the world, the United States, prior to the World War, was forging steadily ahead to its inevitable goal as a great imperialist power. Long steps in this direction were the seizure of Hawaii, Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Philippines, Guam, etc., and the opening of the Panama Canal, which gave the United States rich colonies to exploit and hegemony over Central America. The growth of its unparalleled industrial system was also laying the basis for America's world role. The World War of 1914-18 enormously speeded up this imperialist development of the United States. America's war-stricken allies placed monster demands upon its industrial and financial resources. These responded with a flood of war supplies and capital such as the world had never seen before. With one great leap, the United States, displacing Great Britain, became the industrial and financial leader of world capitalism. Almost immediately after the war, this robust imperialism came into open conflict with the antiquated trade union movement. The employers' objectives were to strip the workers of what advances they had made during the war period. They were determined to cut wages and especially to destroy the unions so as to secure for themselves greater profits and a free hand in the industries. This movement to deflate labor in the United States was part of the world effort of capitalism to stabilize itself after the Holocaust of the war. The main attack against American workers was camouflaged with a remarkable smokescreen of class collaborationism. During 1919, a whole series of proposals were put forth to establish class peace, especially by church organizations, including such bodies as the National Catholic War Council, Federal Council of the Churches of Christ, Episcopal Joint Commission on Social Services, Baptist Social Service Committee, Presbyterian General Assembly, Methodist Episcopal Board of Bishops, Interchurch World Movement, etc. The general program of this widespread movement was for a class peace based upon mild social reforms and a recognition of the right of workers to form trade unions. The objective results of the movement were to confuse the workers and to demobilize them before the impending capitalist attack. As part of this class collaboration camouflage movement, President Wilson on September 3, 1919, issued a call for a national industrial conference to assemble in Washington on October 6th. It was to be made up of representatives of the employers, the public, and the workers. Its avowed purpose was to discuss such methods as have already been tried out of bringing capital and labor into close cooperation. But before the meeting came together, the storm broke. On September 22nd, 365,000 steel workers struck. The refusal of the October 6th conference to deal with the strike led to the withdrawal of the labor delegation and the breakup of the conference. The class war was on in earnest. Then followed the greatest series of labor struggles in American history. During the next 3 years, big strikes raged in nearly all the industries. Everywhere, the employers strove to cut wages and to smash the unions. Everywhere, the workers militantly resisted, despite a weak and treacherous leadership. Bitter strikes were fought out in the coal mining, meat packing, printing, building, textile, shoe, marine transport, needle, lumber, and other industries. The movement climaxed in the Great National Strike of the 400,000 railroad shop mechanics in 1922. The trade union leadership proved itself utterly unfit in the face of this bitter and sustained attack upon the workers. Its petty bourgeois ideas of class collaboration, its antiquated system of craft unionism, and its obsolete strike strategy were worse than useless in defending the workers and their organizations from the aggressive attacks of the capitalists, made powerful through militant imperialism. Craft betrayal in its worst forms was practiced on every front. Consequently, the Unions suffered heavy defeats all along the line. In the steel, meatpacking, lumber, and marine transport industries, they were either completely or almost completely annihilated. The miners' union was seriously weakened, likewise the organizations in the printing, needle, shoe, building, and textile industries. The smashing of the shopmen's strike undermined the whole structure of railroad unionism. The AFL lost more than 1 million members in the whole struggle and was driven from many key industrial positions. This period was marked by ferocious state persecutions of the left wing, many hundreds being jailed and deported. Taken together, the reverses in the various industries constituted the most disastrous defeat ever suffered by the American labor movement in its entire history. In the midst of these historic struggles, the left wing and the unions, organized in and around the Trade Union Educational League and the Workers' Communist Party, raised the slogan "Amalgamation and a Labor Party." It proposed that the scattered craft unions be consolidated and the unorganized workers mobilized into powerful industrial unions. It demanded that the labor leaders break with the two capitalist parties and that the unions launch a labor party. It insisted upon a policy of militant struggle against the employers. This program took like wildfire among the masses. The workers were in a fighting mood. Over half of the entire rank and file of the AFL unions voted endorsement of the slogan, "Amalgamation and a Labor Party." But the conservative leaders would have none of such a program. Amalgamation would jeopardize their sinecure jobs in the unions. The Labor Party would break their profitable alliances with the capitalist politicians, and the plan of militant struggle was contrary to their whole class collaboration ideology. Hence, through their autocratic control of the union machinery, they strangled the amalgamation movement. They sabotaged the entire Labor Party, and they embarked upon a program of systematic surrender to the employers. To make this surrender possible, they opened up a bitter persecution and expulsion of the left wing, designed to disconnect its militants from leadership of the discontented masses. After the defeat of the 1922 railroad shopmen's strike, the trade union bureaucracy took an orientation towards an elaborated and intensified class collaboration, 1927. That's the end of Chapter 6. Thank you everyone for listening to the Workers' Reading Room. Hope you all have a good day.